Hello, adventurer. It's good to see you. You have made it to the morning grind.
Welcome, welcome.
It's the live stream at the beginning of the Geekverse, where we talk about all types of topics in geekdom, gaming, and fantasy, with an emphasis on being constructive and creating the things that we want to exist in the world.
It's all on the grind, Sizemore. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
That's exactly right. There are a lot of adventures to be had today. Dungeons to explore and monsters to slay, and who knows what a random encounter might send our way. That's why we have to prepare, so settle in now for the morning grind with your favorite beverage in hand.
Tea? Or maybe something a little stronger. I've got a few bottles of the old Wynyard left.
Whatever you want. Pull up a chair.
Dude.
If you're feeling fancy, how about a cappuccino? Or a frappuccino? Or how about an espresso?
Just tea, thank you.
Sounds good to me, Gandalf. Whatever you want. I'm just glad you're here.
Everyone is welcome. You can just watch if you want. You don't have to worship anything you don't want to worship.
Thank you, Mike. But be forewarned.
Sometimes we get really strange characters around here.
Wait, what's that you say? Why can't you come and be a part of the stream?
My wife would disown me.
Oh no, I bet she'll be fine with it. Come on in.
Am I scared for my safety? No.
What are we supposed to do?
Everybody do the secret handshake.
Secret cultist handshake.
Oh, now do wizards who love each other.
This, my friend, is a science.
I still don't have gifts, but it's fine.
It's all on the grind, son. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
Dude, this would be a sick place to bring the band.
Indeed it would be, Dave. It really would. I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome, glad to have you here. Oh, look, here's someone new.
Is this the cultist meetup?
Yes it is.
Come to hang out? Please accept me. I have nothing else.
Okay, we accept you. Everyone's welcome here.
Brought some snacks.
Well, that makes things even better.
You want some coffee? I don't drink coffee. You sure? It's cultist coffee. What makes it cultist coffee? I'm a cultist and I'm drinking it. Oh. Then I'll have some.
What exactly is going on here?
I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. It's so great to have you. Oh, and look, here comes another stranger.
Can we help you?
Yes, fellow cultists. I could really use some food.
Oh, yeah? Welcome. We have donuts.
Oh, it's me. I'm glad I'm here. I'm sure you have a few questions for me, though.
What's your name? Who do you work for? What god do you worship?
Great questions, Rob.
I'm Steve King, and I worship Nyarlathotep.
No, not really. I'm just Heath, and I won't be worshiping anything this morning. But I will be your host. Welcome to the office. We're going to have a great time. I've got my coffee ready, because now it's time for the morning grind.
If you could become a fish, that would be amazing. Then I could command you with my mental fish powers.
Good morning, everyone. Hey, I thought I was already live. I thought I hit the button and I was going through the intro and jamming out, and then I realized I didn't actually hit the button to go live. So now I'm here. Good morning, everyone. I see lots of people are here for this one. Draco is here saying love the streams. Always looking forward to them. Wonderful. Excellent. Tomocrat is here. Really interested in Heath's take on this world. Well, we'll find out. I don't know anything about it other than what people have been telling me about it. Micah is here, and so is Toadstool Hollow. Good morning. Theo and Zero the Blade. And George. Wonderful. All right. Oh, I'm so glad to have everybody. Oh, and James is here. Oh, and Sable Phoenix. And Thor KC has showed up. Good morning. It is so good to see everybody. So, all right. Yes, we are going to be talking about the Dark Sun campaign setting today, and I was trying to figure out, I got them by PDF. I downloaded the second edition AD&D campaign setting for Dark Sun, and I was trying to look at like which book I actually open up to find out, but I will show the different books that are actually inside of it anyway, and then we'll pick one. So we're going to be doing that this morning. And then, Sable Phoenix says this is the second best D&D campaign setting after Planescape. Cool. So tonight, so just as a notes about what's going on, We are in the middle of 72 hours of productivity, and last night I played a index card RPG game. BGD, you've seen him on the thread in several places. I don't think I see him this morning, but you've seen if you see BGD, he ran a index card RPG game last night for me and a few other people. We did it online, and we had a lot of fun. So that was a big chunk of yesterday. It was a 4-hour game. We played from 8 until a little bit after midnight last night. Wanderer's Journal is the lore book. Okay, I see that one. I've got Wanderer's Journal. So we were playing index card RPG last night. I enjoyed it. A lot of people on this channel have been very pro index card RPG, so I got to play it for the first time. And we used the custom index card RPG virtual tabletop. I didn't know there was one. So I thought it was actually great. It being a great system as well. It was kind of what I was thinking of, and I see now why a lot of people had recommended it to me, because it seems like there is a lot of its philosophy that I was trying to that I had come up with that was part of the Faded Edge system that I've been working on. And really, I think its philosophy of virtual tabletop was also very similar, because when I was talking about, hey, I want a game that can be played sort of online first, but sometimes that can mean a very complicated virtual tabletop setup. Now, I don't exactly know how long it took BGD to set up everything that was in the virtual tabletop, but it wasn't complicated stuff like trying to make sure the line of sight is on and all of the fog of war and then all of the lighting and stuff like that. You can get really complicated. But the problem is that takes a while. And it was very simple, but it did everything that I thought it needed to do. So I thought that was a lot of fun. So but that did mean that I was up until after midnight last night. So I would say that I answered the call to adventure because I got 8 hours worth of sleep. I got a post about that, but then we'll figure out how to use the rest of our day. Tonight, Brianna and I are talking about the structure of horror. Another thing I did yesterday was I watched the original 1922 film Nosferatu. I had not seen Nosferatu yet. I highly recommend it if you were interested in horror or you're interested in classic cinema. You see Nosferatu the vampire quite a bit as a cultural icon, but I hadn't ever actually watched the original film. So we watched that last night, and we're going to use that as a basis for our discussion of the structure of horror. That will be tonight at 7:30 p.m. Central Time, and I have a dinner meeting. I've got to get out. I've got to have dinner and then get back for the 7:30 live stream tonight. So there's a lot going on. So that is all happening. So, all right, let's go to the morning messages, and then we will take our sip, and then let's bring up Dark Sun. The Morning Grind is brought to you by World Anvil. For all the game masters out there, World Anvil supports more than 45 systems, including D&D, or you can create your own. It allows game masters to plan, play, and present their adventures and campaigns. Use the code MORNINGGRIND to get 40% off yearly subscriptions. The Morning Grind is also brought to you by the Cool Name RPG. Cool Name is all about building a new fantasy RPG with a dream team of RPG designers and then giving it away free to the world. Support its development now on Kickstarter. And thank you for being here with me live on The Morning Grind. And if you're watching on replay, welcome to you as well. It's great to have you here. If you're enjoying The Morning Grind, please click the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. It will really help the channel grow, and I would be very thankful. We also have the Ravenkeep Discord server you can join if you would like to be a part of the community. Alright, that's what you need to know. Let's get to the main topic. Right. I'm going to put the link here, Ravenkeep Discord. Please come and join us if you are following this. I just put that in the chat. So James says, so we were talking about horror earlier. James says, James, Count Orlok, great movie. Funny enough, I never considered Nosferatu as a horror film. Huh. Yeah, see, that was one of the things that I was saying, that if you would ask me a couple of years ago, do I like horror, I would have said no. But that's because I don't do like slasher films or things like that. But actually, it turns out I do. My conceptualization of horror was way too narrow. And so there is a lot of stuff that is horror that I like. H.P. Lovecraft, Edgar Allan Poe, Bram Stoker's Dracula. I love the original Dracula book. So we're going to be talking about that kind of stuff on the stream tonight. So Factotum says a lot of hidden lore exists within the Monsters Manual Dark Sun Supplement 2. Many of the Dark Sun modules also come with short stories. I was noticing as I was just flipping through, saying, what book here do I need to look at? There were short stories in here. Good morning, Vision. Good morning. Good morning. George says, totally dislike D&D settings, but that doesn't mean I can't steal ideas from them. It seems like I need to learn how to use Discord from the phone. It seems like it has a pretty good interface, Zero the Blade. Lovecraft is the best, in my opinion, George says. Oh, also, I do want to have a members-only stream. That's coming up. I mean, because there's so much going on today, I may not get it ready for tomorrow, but maybe Thursday or Friday or something like that. We'll do our modern-day adventuring gear-based stream, because I've been invited to go boar hunting. I'm not sure when I'm going to do that, but I am going to get my gear ready. So we'll do a gear-focused RPG, gear-focused live stream. Okay, yeah, August Derelith as well. How many of those have I read? I think I've read some. Okay, let's breathe and sip, and then let's bring up Dark Sun. 2 deep breaths, deep inhale, complete exhale, and then take a sip of your favorite beverage this morning. Do it with me. Do it with me now. You'll actually feel better. You will feel better. Okay. So I'm going to go over here. So I was told that, yeah, the lore is the stuff that I'm really looking forward to. So I got, so I downloaded the AD&D Dark Sun guide from Drive-Thru RPG. And I do see that it's got several things in it. It's got Dark Sun player aid cards. So there are player aids. And, you know, I would have liked, that would have been fun to have as a physical thing. I didn't go ahead and buy a physical copy. Try to look on eBay. I think they're still, actually, I think I did look on eBay, and I think they're still expensive. So I didn't try to get a physical copy, even though I really like physical copies of things. So there is a Dungeon Master's book as well. A little knowledge, an introductory adventure set beneath the Dark Sun. Dungeon Master's book. So there is that in here. And then it says book 3 is a little knowledge. And I believe this is a adventure. No, this is the short story. So there is a short story in here as well, which I like. I'm a writer. I like the short story. I like having the text in there as well. So that's fine. So then we've got Dark Sun, the rule book, a guide to campaigns set beneath the Dark Sun. So there is a rule book we need to look at. And then it says book 4 is the Wanderer's Journal. So that's the one people are saying. The Wanderer's Journal, Table of Contents, Chapter 1, The World of Athos, Athasian Society, Athasian Geography, Atlas of the Tyre Region, Monsters of Athos. Okay, so that looks like, I want to look at the rule book too, but we can do this over multiple days. And we also have maps in here. So that is what we have got inside this box set. So, okay, let's go to the Wanderer's Journal then and get to the lore then. I'll bring that one up. Well, not this way. Share screen. So this book right here. Let's see. China Myville is actually a really good modern horror writer at Subtle Horror. I don't know that author. His Bag Lang novels are actually set in his D&D homebrew campaign. Well, hey, if you need to do shots in the morning, well, it might not be morning where you are, but you can breathe and do a shot. Hey, whatever type of beverage you've got that you enjoy, your favorite beverage. It's all about your favorite beverage and whatever works for you. Breathing and, hey, take a shot of whatever you need. Okay, so the Dark Sun. So this is the Wanderer's Journal. Find out about this world. Oh, and one of the reasons that I was interested in this, because I don't know a whole lot about Dark Sun, just because it came up in one of the Kyle Brink interviews that this was a world that has not been returned to. Now, I understand there was 4th edition material for it, and I just completely skipped 4th edition because I wasn't gaming at the time. But I do remember Dark Sun being around when I was playing AD&D, and we've kind of liked some of the older material anyway. So this is stuff that he was specifically saying couldn't be revisited, or was problematic. That was the word that was used. It's problematic to revisit. I hate that word because it is intended to be vague, and I try not to use it. I try not to use it myself. But the word that he used when he described this was problematic, because it's such a general kind of word to me. So we've been looking at different morality clauses, and we've actually had quite a bit of discussion about the ideas about what is morally acceptable or what is not morally acceptable, and who gets to make that call and things like that. And we did specifically look at the Book of Erotic Fantasy, which I wasn't terribly impressed with, but we looked at that specifically. I wanted to look at that one specifically because that one did cause a kerfluffle back in 3rd edition days, because of the with the D20 license, because back then when you were operating the OGL and the D20 license, and that one actually caused a revision of the D20 license, and that one was not allowed to have the D20 license on it and things like that. So I want to know, okay, so what was in it? Because that one was actually a situation with a book that caused some problem. So we looked at it and went over it for that reason. So here's another one, though. Here is the material that's being called out as too problematic for wizards to return to, although they want to. So he said. And actually, I was Ajit George, who I interviewed Ajit George, and I was reading someplace that he said that he was interested in returning to the Dark Sun campaign setting and trying to create something for it. So I guess we will see. Well, George says espresso comes in shots too. That's true. You could be shooting espresso. That's absolutely. But it's 5 o'clock somewhere. Yep. Trey's here. The Autopsy of Jane Doe, not a slasher flick, more of a psychological thriller. I don't know that one. So let's just see what this is about. So the Wanderer's Journal. I live in a world of fire and sand. The crimson sand scorches the life from anything that crawls or flies, and storms of sand scour the foliage from the barren ground. Lightning strikes from the cloudless sky. The peals of thunder roll unexplained across the vast tablelands. Even the wind, dry and searing as a kiln, can kill a man with thirst. This is a land of blood and dust, where tribes of feral elves sweep out of the salt plains to plunder lonely caravans. Mysterious singing winds call men to slow suffocation in the sea of silt, and legions of slaves clash over a few bushels of moldering grain. The dragon despoils entire cities, while selfish kings squander their armies raising gaudy palaces and garish tombs. This is my home, Athos. It is an arid and bleak place, a wasteland with a handful of austere cities clinging precariously to a few scattered oases. It's a brutal and savage land, beset by political strife and monstrous abominations, where life is grim and short. Well, this already has a very different feeling than most other D&D, or the D&D settings that you get now, right? This seems sword and sorcery. This seems like the definition, or this seems like it's going in the direction of sword and sorcery instead of like high fantasy. So the Forgotten Realms, which seems a bit nicer by comparison to this, we're going sword and sorcery in this direction, which is good. I like both, but it's good to have both. So overview of the world. Atlas is a desert, sun-scorched and wind-scoured, parched and endless. From the first moments of dawn until the last twinkling of dust, the crimson sun shimmers in the olive-tinged sky like a fiery puddle of blood. It climbs toward its zenith, and the temperature rises relentlessly. 100 degrees by mid-morning, 110 at afternoon, 130, sometimes even 150 by late afternoon. A man cannot drink fast enough to replenish the fluid he loses. As the days drag on, he feels sick and feeble. If he does not have enough water, he grows too weak to move. His mouth becomes dry and bitter. His lips, tongue, and throat grow swollen. Before long, his blood is thick and gummy. His heart must work hard to circulate it. Finally, his system overheats, leaving him dead and alone in the sands. The wind does little to help matters. As hot as the forge's breath, it blows up sandstorms that last 50 days to a stretch, speeding the evaporation of water from skin and soil alike. A storm can darken the sky at high noon, carrying so much sand that it reduces the visibility to a pace. Breezes on Athos are suffocating and dust-laden, caking everything they touch with yellow-orange silt, spoiling food and filling a man's eyes with pasty mud. Even still days are precious. Even still days are precious. Columns of superheated air can rush upward in terrific violent winds, carrying dust, plants, and men to great heights, then suddenly dying away and leaving their reluctant passengers to fall to terrible or horrible death. Well, I'm already excited about playing in this world. As dangerous as it is, the wind is merely an inconvenience when compared to the greater danger of Athos, the lack of water. In most places, it rains no more than once a year. In some places, it only rains once in 10 years. And the only available water lies in brackish, mineral-crusted oasis ponds. Aside from a handful of streams that trickle less than 50 miles before drying up, there's not a single river on the planet, though I have crossed plenty of ancient bridges and know that rivers were once common. Oh, so we're in kind of like a post-apocalyptic kind of environment too? What the world was like in those days, I cannot imagine. I have already noted that what the lack of water can mean to a thirsty man, but the dry climate affects Athos in other ways. It allows the sun to shine down unreflected on the barren ground, which is why it grows so hot during the day. At night, the low humidity has the opposite effect. The day's heat escapes into the sky, plunging the temperature to 40 degrees or less, and in the mountains even to 0. As far as I can tell, all parts of Athos share the blazing sun, the dangerous winds, and the lack of water. Nothing I have seen in my own explorations or heard from the hundreds of travelers I have interviewed points to any other conclusion. Athos is an endless wasteland spotted by tiny oases of fecundity, inhabited by brutal predators. That is, it is, for all intents and purposes, a land of mortal desolation. Very different from high fantasy Forgotten Realms. Hey, BGD. We were just talking about your game this morning. BGD is here. I thought it was great. Thank you so much for running that yesterday. That was a lot of fun. James Bacon says, I can't wait to get to the Defilers and Preservers. What an incredibly cool take on arcane classes. Sable Phoenix. This is very much sword and sorcery, but with a dash of sword and planet. It's like Edgar Rice Burroughs does heavy metal. It's a dying earth setting, Factotum says. So, and yes, Dark Sun is also a commentary on ecological destruction. It's just that global warming was caused by magic overuse. I remember this setting was like, what if Conan ended up on Arrakis? I can completely see that. Conan on Arrakis. I like that. Though the picture I have painted so far is stark and rugged land, I do not mean to say that Athos is dreary or monotonous. To the contrary, it has a majestic and stark beauty. When first light casts its emerald hues on the sea of silk, or when sunset spreads its bloody stain over the ringing mountains, there is certain feral beauty that stirs the untamed heart up in us all. Its call to take up spear and net, to flee the city and go see what lurks out in the barrenness. I'm just going to keep going. I'm curious. So general geography, the description of what follows is that over the years, I have pieced together about the geography of our world. There are many omissions and no doubt dozens of errors, for my information is gathered from travelers, merchants, and explorers, some of whom no doubt feel that it was in their best interest to mislead me wherever possible. Nonetheless, certain broad outlines do emerge. Athos, or at least the explored portion, consists of about 1 million square miles of desert. In its center, covering an area of about 120,000 square miles, is a vast dust-filled basin that I call the Sea of Silt. Because of travel difficulties to be discussed later, the Sea of Silt remains almost entirely unexplored. Surrounding this dry sea is a band of tablelands running from as much as 400 miles wide to as little as 50. The tablelands consist of many types of terrain: golden dunes, stony barrens, dust sinks, white salt flats, rocky badlands, and plains of yellow-green scrub brush. This is where civilization, if you can call it that, still lingers. Scattered among these flatlands are tiny oases of life, where a few acres of fertile land supports a grain field, sometimes even a forest. Clinging to these oases are the disorderly jumbles of buildings and people that we call cities. Although each city reflects the personality of the king who rules it, all are precariously balanced on the edge of starvation, barely scratching enough food from their small plots of land to support their populations. The tablelands are encircled by the various ranges of the ringing mountains. These ranges all run north and south. To the east and west of the Sea of Silt, the mountains form solid walls separating the tablelands from the unknown regions below. To the north and south of the dusty sea, they form a series of parallel ribs. The deep valleys between the ridges lead away from central Athos like a series of long and hazardous corridors. That's probably in some of the maps that we've got here. LARP Beard. Good morning, LARP Beard. Good to see you. LARP Beard says it's also talking about capitalism, cyberpunk, but in sand and sandals. Oh, this setting is where the Thri-Keen originally came from? Ah, so that's why they're in here. I wanted to see when this was published. So they are native and original to this campaign setting. Do we have a publication date on this in this book? 1991. So this is from 1991. Now, I don't think this is necessarily the first appearance of Dark Sun. This is the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons box set that I got digitally. But this is from 1991. In every direction beyond the mountains lie the hinterlands. We have little knowledge of what abides there. Many men have set out to explore the depths of this unknown region, but I have never met one who returned. During the one journey that I had undertook to view just at the edge of the hinterland, an invisible barracks carried off my companions. An invisible barracks, I guess that's a creature, carried off my companions. A tribe of halflings tried to eat me. And a silkworm hounded my trail for over a week. It's a wonder that I returned at all. Athasian Culture. Although Athos is a wasteland, it's not an empty wasteland. The world is fairly crawling with humanoids, demi-humans, and humanoids. Every group has found a different way to survive in this barren and harsh environment. In general, I have found that all cultures seem to fall into one of 7 basic categories. There are city dwellers, villagers, merchants, caravan dynasties, herdsmen, raiders, hunter-gatherers, and hermits. The cities, surrounded by golden fields of crops, stand at sizable oases. They are bustling enclaves of humanity, stinking of garbage and ringing the supplications of beggars. Their tawny towers of fired brick rise from behind thick stone ramparts and designed to lock the residents inside as well as keep strangers out. In the center of every city, a powerful sorcerer king lives inside a secure fortress, ruling his subjects through a sophisticated hierarchy of bureaucrats, nobles, and rapacious clergymen. Each city is a state unto itself, its king wielding absolute authority over every living thing inside its walls and crawling through its fields. Villagers are no more than clusters of mud brick shelters erected at minor oases at various forlorn places, such as the edge of the salt flat or in the shelter of a rocky overhang. Depending on their nature, they're ruled by office bureaucrats, minor despots, or occasionally even democratic councils. At best, they are semi-permanent. Sooner or later, the dragon comes calling. The oasis dries up, or a tribe of raiders sweeps out of the wastes. Within a few years of such an event, all traces of the village are buried beneath the massive sand dunes or carried away by the howling wind. The dynastic merchant houses are sophisticated trading companies with networks extending many hundreds of miles, transcending political boundaries and spanning all social classes. Their trading posts are found on bleak peninsulas jutting into the sea of silt or in box canyons located high in the ringing mountains. A sporadic stream of cargo runs from these outposts to the cities, carrying the goods with them. The houses stock their vast bargaining emporiums. Each house may have facilities in a number of cities. Most are owned by a single family and passed on from generation to generation. Okay, we do have psionics here and clerical magic and wizards, so we're going to see what's going on with magic here in just a moment. Nomadic herdsmen wander the scrub plains, stony barrens, and sand dunes, pausing for a week or two wherever there is pasture enough for their flocks to graze. Their bands are usually small, consisting of 5 to 10 extended families, 50 to 150 individuals, for their harsh way of life will not support large populations. Most herdsmen have fiercely independent spirits governing themselves through a council of elders. Usually, a magic-wielding patriarch serves as the leader of this council. Whenever there is something worth stealing, there are raiding tribes. These bands of despicable cutthroats live by pillaging caravans, poaching nomad flocks, and plundering helpless villages. They are cowards who make their home in desolate places protected by wide expanses of salt flats or great tracts of rocky badlands. Their warlords are ruthless and tough, taking and holding their positions through violence and treachery. The primitive hunting and gathering clans have the most versatile cultures. You'll encounter them anywhere, hunting snakes and the salt flats, gathering roots in the stony barrens, even stealing eggs from nests perched atop the high mountainous crags. Usually, they live in small groups of 3 or 4 immediate families, usually numbering no more than 20 individuals. Hermits have withdrawn from society either by choice or by coercion. They are peculiar individuals who reside in isolated oases and scratch out a meager living either by sustenance farming or through limited hunting. Hermits live in all parts of Athos, although you won't meet many because they avoid contact with strangers. All right, so I hadn't really encountered a major problem yet, right? Prompts for the AI to get Dark Sun is Stone Age Barbarian Savage Raiders on Barsum. Yeah, in the Discord server, we've got a place for AI for games and things like that. And you can go back and if you look at that, you can see different attempts at generating Dark Sun style art. So Factotum says that Stone Age Barbarian Savage Raiders will work. Okay, Savage Phoenix says, I don't think this is about capitalism. You can't really have imperial feudalism and capitalism at the same time. Paul says Thrykeen is from Monster Manuals 2. So this Toadstool Hollow says this is the physical copy I have. If I like it, I might end up having to get it, but I think it's expensive. The Dark Sun module Freedom has one of the strongest pieces of cover art ever. Good morning, Zero Theory. Well, that's what Trey G says. I'm wondering if the slavery topic is the reason this game is considered problematic. It seems like I've seen that go by in a lot of different comments that, well, there's a lot to do with slavery or something in this world. So maybe it's the slavery that makes this world something that that Wizards of the Coast wouldn't want to go back to and revise, or is considering problematic material. It could be. We hadn't gotten to a whole lot of that, but that seems to be what people tend to bring up. He didn't say. Kyle didn't say. He just said, he just used the general term, well, it's problematic. This is problematic content. So he didn't specify. And of course, it's not like anybody has to do anything. It's not like Wizards of the Coast has to return to this. I understand that it's popular. A lot of people seem to like Dark Sun, and I've really liked what I've read so far. Sounds interesting. But it's not like they have to. It's not like they have to return to it. But it seems like to me, what would you say, if they're going a different direction? Because there are a lot of people who've been talking about what do they want to do with the D&D brand itself? What do they want it to be? Well, it may be that they are trying to do a much more family-friendly, expecting Dungeons and Dragons to be Marvel, the Marvel universe. When you see the Marvel logo or something like that, everybody knows they can just go, it's a family thing, family-friendly kind of thing by and large, mass culture kind of appeal. And so maybe if they're trying to go in that direction, maybe something like this Dark Sun campaign setting isn't something that would fit with that. But if that's the case, I think they would get a lot more, they would have more goodwill if he had just said, yeah, that's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to move Dungeons and Dragons in a much more mainstream kind of way. We want it to be family friendly. We want it to be something like the Marvel, in the model of something like what the Marvel universe has done for mass consumption in the fantasy environment. But whereas they did that for comic books, we're trying to do that for fantasy. And the Dark Sun campaign setting isn't one that we feel like fits in with that vision for maybe reason X, Y, and Z specifically. And so we're not planning on returning to it. You might not like that because you may like the Dark Sun setting and you may be unhappy that's not being returned to, but at least that would be a very straightforward answer. That was what I was thinking about. At least that would be straightforward. And you go, well, okay, I see what they're doing. They're not going to, and why they're doing it. They're not going to return to Dark Sun. Oh, well, that sucks. I liked it. Rather than using just to me, that general terminology that, well, oh, that's over there. That's some problematic material. That's the way I'm thinking about it. And cannibal halflings. Yeah, well, I just read something about the cannibal halflings a moment ago. Robert says, is Dark Sun supposed to be problematic? Unfortunately, probably yes, Robert. Now, see, okay, Factotum says, I'd say the genocidal war of cleansing was more so. The slavery and the mole race are the touchy bits. It is for a lot of reasons, a few of which I've mentioned. Look at how weird it got just for the backstory of one species in Spelljammer. Oh, by the way, I got the second edition Spelljammer book. I've never been spelljamming. So I got the second edition Spelljammer book. I've got a stack of books over there for us to look at, but we're going to look at the original Spelljammer. Slavery and cannibalism are both issues, as well as magic being fueled by life force. Okay, we're about to take a look at magic. So to cast spells, you are draining living things. George says, I think that corporate folks wouldn't feel comfortable giving players the option to drain life to fuel your power. At least that is one thought. Dark Sun was one of the settings where they were trying to push desperation and resource management. Factotum says the world is doomed to dying because sorcerers sought to eliminate all the other races and drained the life of the planet to fuel their crusade. I have a philosophical rant on the world problematic in general, in that it feels like an attempt to move subjective experience into the objective realm. It's just that I just hear that word so often. And anytime somebody says that word, or most of the time, like when I'm just hearing, maybe there are reasons to say it in certain contexts, but in general, when I hear it, I'm like, okay, instead of using this general word, give me specific examples. It's like a way of dismissing something. Oh, that's, there's this problematic. It's problematic. Well, tell me what the actual problem is. Or what you perceive the actual problem to be. There might even be an actual problem, but tell me what the actual problem is. It seems like a word that's been used for many years to just be dismissive of something. Oh, it's problematic. It's problematic. problematic for a toy company like Hasbro might not match what we players consider problematic. Corporations exist to make money, and it might just be a matter of risk versus projected profits. And see, that's why I think that would be, I mean, a direct answer like that, like I was saying, if it's something that Dungeons and Dragons, they're trying to make Dungeons and Dragons much more, let's say, family friendly now, family friendly and mainstream. And we've talked about how when that happens, sometimes we don't like that, right? You know, we think, man, it would be great. I remember thinking, I don't remember if I necessarily had this thought. But some of my friends articulated, like in high school and things like this. Man, wouldn't it be great if all this stuff was more mainstream? Well, there are advantages to that, but there are also some major disadvantages. But to me, it's not. It's the kind of weaselly language. Just be direct. Just be direct and explain what's going on. Like I said, then you may not like it. I mean, you may not like their answer, but at least they would have been direct and you would have known what's going on. Okay, so let's figure out what's going on with clerical magic, wizardry, and psionics, because like for so many people, psionics wasn't something that I used in AD&D. I don't think it ever came up in one of our AD&D games. So supernatural forces. The world is full of powers beyond those that common men can master. As a rule, they are grouped into 3 categories: clerical magic, wizardry, and psionics. Each player plays an important part in the cycle of life and death on Athas. Clerical magic. On Athas, there are several different types of clerics. Each of them pays homage to one of the 4 elemental forces. Air, earth, fire, or water. Of course, the latter are perhaps the most influential on our thirsty world, but all are powerful and worthy of respect. Another group of people calls themselves the Druids, and at least by most accounts are considered to be clerics. Druids are special and they do not pay tribute to any single elemental force, but rather work to uphold the dying life force of Athas. They serve nature and the planetary equilibrium. Many people consider it a lost cause, but no Druid would ever admit that. In some cases, the Sorcerer King is glorified as if he were some kind of immortal being. In fact, many such rulers are actually able to bestow spell casting abilities on the Templars who serve them. Are they truly on par with the elemental forces worshipped by clerics? I think not. Wizardry. The magic of wizards is different from that of the clerical orders. It converts the energy of life into magical power that the sorcerer shapes into spells. If this is done with respect for the life force of the world and care is taken to balance the net loss of energy with the net gain of magic, there are no adverse effects. This is what we're talking about. It converts the energy of life into magical power, and the sorcery shapes into spells. If this is done with respect for the life forces of the world and care is taken to balance the net loss of energy with the net gain of magic, there are no adverse effects. In most cases, the wizards take great care to guard the vitality of the world when casting their spells and working their enchantments. For others, however, the long-term drain on Athas's ecology is meaningless. They care little for the life force that is lost when they spin their webs of magic. The dark souls, called defilers, drain the power from their spells from the world around them. Plants near them wither, and once fertile soil turns to sterile ash under their macabre power. Most of Athas's sorcerer kings are defilers of the highest power. Oh. Micah says, yeah, desperation and resource management was nice, regardless of the rest. John says, we're better off taking 2nd edition Dark Sun than getting a watered down 5e version. We've got multiple Georges. We've got multiple different kinds of Phoenixes here as well. Colonel Kronk asks, has anybody read The Tribe of One? I have not. I don't know it. Bucko says 5e is magic heavy and Dark Sun is some odd things with magic. The two may not go together without large modifications. Oh, exactly. Well, thank you. We've got some agreement here. Problematic is a word that's used anymore to try to end the conversation without discussion. James says, I think the majority demographic for people who play D&D is still males over 40. I understand the need to bring in a younger audience, but abandoning the core audience never works. Well, and younger audiences sometimes like edgy things, right? I mean, I started when younger. I'm not really sure if the edgy part of it was necessarily a draw, but I mean, it could be, but I'm sure it is to some people. For me personally, you're trying to get teenagers. Well, I don't know what current teenage mindset is, but you would seem like, hey, here's something completely harmless. Might not be interested in it. Here's something edgy and dangerous. Might potentially that some people consider dangerous. Okay, so psionics. Let's see what's going on with psionics. Psionics. To one extent or another, every human and demi-human on Athos has psionic powers. Most people are wild talents with only one power that they have learned to use by trial and error. But everyone can harness their psychic powers through careful practice and study, and every city has at least one training hall dedicated to teaching the way of the mind. Many warriors, Templars, and sorcerers have attended these academies and developed powerful psionic abilities in addition to their normal talents. Psionic powers are not magic. The user focuses his effect inward rather than outward, drawing upon natural forces that infuse his own being rather than those that imbue the world around him. Thus, the widespread use of such mental abilities does not further enhance the degradation of our battered Athos. Okay, so we've got the contrast between our wizardry use and the psionic use in the context of the environmental destruction. I'd have to even look up what psionics were. It might give us some rules. There might be rules for. In fact, I'm kind of curious. Hang on. I'm going to go over here. This is the rule book. I'm just going to look at the table of contents. The rule book has player scores, player character races, player character classes, alignment, proficiencies, money and equipment, magic, experience, combat, treasure, encounters, NPCs, vision and light, time and movement, and new spells. I don't specifically see psionics in here. I'm going to go over to see on page 56. 56 is magic. I wonder if it has something, if it has anything on psionics in this. You would think it would. I've got wizardry in here. Defiler, destruction table, trees of life. We're going to have to look at this too. This will be a multi-day. Oh, and then experience. Okay, so I didn't just immediately see it, information on psionics in the other book. Might have to go to another D&D book. I don't know, to get information on that. Look at all of the new mainstreaming of everything in 5th edition. They're removing any lore and just railroading campaigns. I kind of like being part of the geek underground. I've talked in other places about being against corporate geekdom. And there were some advantages. There were definitely some advantages with some huge, like starting with the Lord of the Rings, the Peter Jackson trilogy, and things like that. I mean, we got great things as things started to go mainstream. But again, I'm skeptical. I remain very skeptical of corporate geekdom today. Doesn't still mean that some good things have come out of it. For instance, I was very glad that I gave the House of the Dragon a try. I gave the House of the Dragon a try, even though I was skeptical after the end of Game of Thrones. But I gave it a try, and I thought it was fantastic. So it can still do great things, but I'm still just, in general, skeptical of corporate geekdom. I kind of like the geek underground. So maybe that's the kind of stuff, maybe that's where my stuff can sit later on, sort of the geek underground that you find, and you don't have to worry about the corporate element of geekdom anymore. Got to go to the underground. See, I don't know. I need to look into this situation more, because some people have talked about that, and I don't know. I don't know what was written. Now, see, that was, somebody brought that up because I was like, with Kyle Brink, he never gave examples. I would have asked him for examples about, he was talking about all this stuff that he used different languages, different words about how much it seemed to imply was out there. So that was, he used different words. But when he was talking about, I mean, all this stuff that was troubling or hateful or something like that. I was like, what? Like what? Like I don't see like is there a whole bunch of books that he's got on the shelf that he was buying, to keep up with what was going on with other publishers and stuff that was just like shocking his conscience and he perceived as very hateful. But it could have been somebody said, well, I bet it was this new TSR stuff. I'll have to, but I don't know enough about what was actually written there, like to know what it was. There are ways to do Dark Sun magic in psionics and 5e, like making magic use capped as only sidekick slots can be used as a preserver, but you can always tap defiling to use more, but become tainted. Hello, Neutromancer. I've only ever played Dark Sun on a computer, Neutromancer says. John says, the older people who already play have their books, and people like me who don't buy WotC books at all. Hasbro makes money by selling younger people books and digital subscriptions. Now, see, that's another thing they could do. They could say, hey, we're never returning to this. But then you could license it out. Now, if their problem is that it exists at all, then licensing it out or letting somebody else develop it doesn't help. But that would be another thing. Hey, we don't want to do this anymore. But that doesn't mean that we couldn't license out the setting and let somebody else do it. Like Totem says, see, when we were using the word sorcerer over here in this book, remember, for those who might be newer or not played AD&D, there wasn't a sorcerer class. So we're not talking about a sorcerer class over here when we're talking about sorcerers in this. So you could reskin the sorcerer as a psionicist. But that's true. See, I saw the 4th edition Dark Sun source book. So it wasn't that long ago that they said, okay, let's do Dark Sun. So they upgraded Dark Sun for 4th edition. Yes, I did get it off Drive Through RPG. I decided not to go in for the eBay yet. I remember them having a bunch of different, because there was no unified system resolution system in AD&D, so everything had its own rule structure. So I remember psionics having, yes, it's completely separate rule structure. So there are no psionics rules. You need the psionics handbook. Okay, we'll have to check. Maybe the psionics handbook then needs to go on the list because of this to look at on the morning grind. It was a weird shift. I think 2nd E only came out with psionics because GURPS and Rifts popularized them so much. Interesting. Yeah, GURPS definitely has psionics. I don't know Rifts, but I do know GURPS. Okay, let's go over here and let's keep going for a little bit. So let's go into the history here and see what was going on. What generally passes for the history of Athos, in my opinion, a jumble of folklore and propaganda. Most people are too concerned with the problems of the present to devote themselves to the lessons of the past. The few who have any interest in history are the flattering lackeys of kings undertaking the project to glorify their sovereign. The resulting chronicles are impossible fables or mutually incomprehensible fabrications, and never should you trust what you hear in them. Still, we can glean something from these jaded annals. The authors of the kingly histories stumble over their own words in effect to flatter their monarchs, but we must know from the sheer number of these chronicles that most city-states are thousands of years old. The same sorcerer king rules over the city for spans of hundreds of years, sometimes for more than 1,000. There are even cases where the current sovereign is credited with the founding of the city. As incredible as these claims sound, do not discredit them too readily. It is certain that powerful sorcerers live for centuries, and I know of no king that has died in my lifetime, or that my father, or of that of my father or his father. Yet the sorcerer kings do die. I know of at least 2 deserted city-states. A monarch ruled each one, so there were at least 2 more sorcerer kings that now inhabit the world. We can only assume that the magic keeping them alive failed, or that another king killed them. In either case, the deserted cities are further evidence that Athos itself is dying. If the world were healthy, new metropolises would rise to replace those which had fallen into the waste. Turning from political histories to folklore, who has not heard of a bard's sonorous voice singing the marvels of the world before ours? The lyrics speak of the land of plenty, with grass on every hill and water in every draw, fields of barley and whey, and stretched for miles, and there were many sheep that the herds could not be so many sheep the herds could not be counted. Proud forests of oak and maple covered the wild lands, and men were the masters of beasts. This is pretty cool. These ballads sing the praises of warriors who fought not for food or entertainment, but for honor, glory, and lady love. The kings of these songs were noble warriors who fought terrible beasts and waged righteous wars in defense of their subjects. Clearly, they were men who placed the needs of their domains above their own desires and cravings. Most Athasians, I guess. Most Athasians regard these tales as fanciful flights, merely diversions from the toil and misery of their lives. As far as the individual songs are concerned, their attitudes is in no doubt correct, for every singer exaggerates the story to heighten the drama. In some, however, there may be a kernel of truth to the ancient lyrics and ballads. The world abounds with the ruins of these forgotten kingdoms. Who has not marveled at the archaic walls of a lost city snaking from beneath the mountainous sand dunes? Who has not stopped at the rocky Erie to wonder at the aged ruins of a castle perched on a summit? Who has not ever crossed the ancient stone-paved road without speculating as to where it once led? If you have ever asked yourself even one of these questions, then you feel in your heart what I have accepted as true. Athos is a barbaric shadow of some better world. Like men, the elves, dwarves, halflings, and all the demi-human races are but brutal descendants of worthier ancestors. The dragon, the lions, and the other great beasts are horrible abominations of their noble progenitors. Even the plants, such as the blood-blossomed tamarisks, are deadly scions of the foliage that once blanketed the land. The essence of every living being, from the highest to the lowest, has been warped in some grotesque way that make them more vicious, more cunning, and more terrifying than its forebears. You're checking out the art here. I have no idea what caused this atrocious transformation. Perhaps it was the law of nature, for in a savage land only the savage will survive. Perhaps it was the influence of a sinister power, as yet unknown and unseen. Perhaps, as some say, the dragon itself is at the heart of the matter. If we can discover the truth, we may yet attain the glory of the ancients. Somewhere out there, buried under tons of sand and dust, lost in centuries of fire and blood, is an Athos that we have never known, a world of abundance and splendor, where honor is as precious as water. Well, I think that's cool. Athasian society is next. And they don't have metal or much metal, right? I've heard about that. So we got a section on metal over here. Let me go over to the comments. But I'm kind of interested in... Oh, we got more information on psionics as well. So maybe we should read metal and psionics. And then more on magic. Okay. Let's go over here. Let's see. I'm going to have to skip through some of these comments. Yeah, there was a complete book of psionics produced by TSR. I have seen that one. Might get it by PDF. Neutromancer says, I read something interesting in a post somewhere that there was a shift ages ago that removed any ability from people to add missing stuff to settings. Like FR used to be unreliable lore to change. And nowadays, everything is, this is the lore, learn it, it's canon. Watsy, Hasbro must have complete control over what's produced through licensing. OGL is giving them problems with that. Yeah, you're right. It may not be the case that if you licensed out Dark Sun, that you would get anything better. They might still want to approve over it. So it doesn't seem like if they're not willing to produce it, that it wouldn't be something they would license out either. If they were willing to produce it, but they just like, we don't have the manpower to be able to do it, then it seems like maybe they would license it out. Yeah, Winnie the Pooh is now public domain, and somebody did. I haven't seen it, but that horrifying looking Winnie the Pooh horror story or something like that. Yeah, somebody did a movie, something like that, the 100 Anchor Wood of Doom. Remember then, second ed, bards were a subclass of thief, and ranger and paladin were types of fighters, and druids were types of clerics. I don't remember that. There was a different term, though. So I think that wasn't there. There were several different. There were like 4 different main subcategories. Because I want to say priest was one of them. So the druid was a priest. Ranger and paladin, they weren't types of fighters, at least in the edition that I always played, but they were warriors. There was something to say to being a warrior. And so fighter and something else were types of warriors. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Even here in the table of contents, you had warriors, and there were 3 different types of warriors: fighter, paladin, and ranger. Then you had wizard, mage, and the illusionist. And then priest. Under priest, you had cleric and druid. And then under rogue, you had thief and bard. Yeah, warrior, wizard, priest, rogue. Right. So I suppose Game of Thrones blood magic would be problematic. See, that's the kind of thing that I asked too. That like, and as people have said, that as far as bad things go, Game of Thrones, it can be on the milder side. Now, of course, it's advanced on other things. But as far as like people are like, well, now wait a minute, there are other settings and stories and things that are out there that are way worse than Game of Thrones. But I like the Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon kinds of styles of storytelling and what's in them. Can you do things like that with different morality clauses? Nearly all of John Carter's of Mars books are public domain. Factotum says, just saying that it's not like a bard is a casting class. They are rogues in a way. We need to, one time, we're going to, I think it would be fun to go and make a 2nd edition character. Some people probably haven't seen it. I want to look at metal and see what it says about metal, and then we'll move on. Metal says, metal isn't strictly necessary for any Athasian culture to survive, but it's a great benefit to those who have it. Hunters know that metal arrowheads and spearheads are sharper and more enduring than those made of stone or bone. With metal shoes, herders can protect the feet of their mounts from the rigors of the desert wastes. City dwellers use metal to fashion tools that make back-breaking farm work easier and more efficient. Metal even facilitates commerce between societies, for merchants and traders use it as the universal currency. Unfortunately, metals are rare. In my voyages, I have been lucky enough to actually see the iron mines of Tyre, something few outsiders are even permitted to do. They are grand affairs with hundreds of slaves toiling to bring scant traces of metal to the surface. I have come to the conclusion that the ancient societies would have considered this mine too worthless to operate. In our age, however, it is a treasure trove that has provided the Sorcerer King of Tyre with wealth and power almost unmatched in the world. Or maybe that's Tyr. Sorcerer King of Tyr, with wealth and power that's almost unmatched in the world. The scarcity of metal retards commerce on Athos. Without an abundance of currency, we must often resort to barter, a cumbersome affair when a merchant must haul both the goods he sells and those he receives in exchange over great distances. The scarcity of resources hampers industry and economic development as well. In Tyr, the one maltreated but better equipped slave accomplishes twice what his better fed counterparts do in cities like Uruk and Balak. The only reason for this is his tools are better. Mills and workshops that are able to glean a handful of metal tools almost always have an edge on their competitors. In war, the advantages of metal are also plain. Tyr's army has never numbered more than 10,000, but its elite units are composed of highly trained men, each of whom carries a steel sword and an iron-tipped javelin. Often it has destroyed an army 5 times its size that was armed with the bone battle axes and even obsidian-edged sabers. Who can cast doubt that Athos would be a very different place if it had an abundance of metal? Commerce would be easier and less hazardous. Slaves would be more efficient. Wars quicker and more decisive. As I have stated earlier, it is my belief that metal is not always scarce on Athos. Was not always scarce on Athos. For the last few centuries, our main source has been debris from ruins of ancient castles and cities. Apparently, our ancestors devoured Athos's ore supply, leaving us little but their scrap. Now, even that meager supply is all but exhausted, and with it fades the ghost of civilization. There are those who say that our cultures and technologies can survive without metal, but I believe they are wrong. Still, lucky treasure hunters have been known to return from a ruin with a hoard of steel swords and shields, provided they are resourceful enough and brave enough to explore ruins that others have missed or been too frightened to enter. Oh, I like that. So here is also something that treasure that you can give to your adventurers that isn't magic items. Generally speaking, I'm a low magic kind of guy. Of course, there's plenty of high magic playing in the Forgotten Realms. I mean, we've played Forgotten Realms and things like that. But when I'm writing things or when I'm trying to create something, I tend toward the low magic kind of side of things. And so I like that hey, you go raiding and instead of getting magic items, hey, even getting metal items is a big bonus for you. I like that. I've heard tales that suits of clothing fashioned from metal have even been found from time to time. It's generally agreed that those were worn by warriors to protect against the blows of enemy weapons. I can only speculate that the climate must have been far cooler in those ancient days. Any fool that would wear such clothing now would die faster from heat stroke than he would have from the weapons of his foes. Still, the idea that there was once enough metal in the world to allow such a garment to have been manufactured astounds me. There are even rumors that mounds of steel, silver, and gold lie hidden in the deepest tunnels of certain forlorn cities. I have never seen such a thing myself, but if such treasures exist, they will reward those who find them most handsomely. For those who control such stores of metal can buy food, power, influence, and sometimes even the Sorcerer King's protection. This is cool. Yeah, I thought I remembered bards having spells. Bards had spells starting at 2nd level. They were just not a full caster with slower progression and nothing past level 6. Back Totem says this new stuff with every class being a magic slinger isn't part of the 2nd edition system that Dark Sun was built on. Yeah, so that seems to have been, I was hearing somebody else talk about that how do you, because they're also, our perception of game balance, or their perception, the game designer of 2nd edition, their perception of balance was different for what that even means, what game balance even means. But now it seems like basically everybody has some type of magic powers. Even fighters have like certain fighter type magic powers. Neutromancer says probably the main reason bards were disliked because they weren't good at any one thing. But by design, right? I would think that LOFP or Shadow of the Demon Lord would be interesting systems to run a Dark Sword game. No coal, no firewood, can't really have a massive metal industry. James says, I also prefer low magic. Kermit Bear, we got several other low fantasy friends here. Agree 100%. Hello, Bear. Good to see you. I also prefer lower magic games. Then the focus is on the character and his abilities and less on being a Christmas tree. Keith says, I've always had a fascination with Dark Sun because of the artwork. The only background I read was in the Halflings and Gnomes handbook. The Halflings are tribes of cannibals. I might have to pick up this book to read more. Thanks for the review. Oh, well, you're welcome. Glad you're enjoying it. Neutromancer says, I'm thinking about just running Dark Sun in Fate as cinematic Mad Max with swords. Could do it in Fate. Okay, so what time is it? It is 10:42 my time. So if you are new here, if at the end of the morning grind, traditionally, and I've been trying to get back to this tradition, we have been trying to figure out how we want to spend the rest of our day in order to maintain our productivity and how we want to spend the rest of the day. And we've actually been doing a 72-hour productivity challenge because I wanted to try to get back on my schedule for 3 days. Now I did stay up late last night because I was in BGD's game, so I got to bed late, but didn't oversleep today. Just shifted my 8 hours worth of sleep, and now I'm here. So I need to figure out what to do with the rest of my day because I've got a dinner meeting tonight, and then also with the live stream tonight. If you're here, we got a live stream tonight on horror at 7:30 p.m. Central Time. Brianna and I will be talking about the structure of horror stories. We watched the classic horror film Nosferatu from 1922 yesterday to aid in our conversation. I guess I'm not going to be able to watch The Conjuring. I probably don't have enough time, but she wants to talk about The Conjuring as well. But we're going to be talking about the structure of horror in general. So let me take this down, and then let's come over here. And if you want to join us, let me go ahead and also put over here the Ravenkeep Discord server. I'll put the link here again. If you're not already on the Ravenkeep Discord server, we talk about all kinds of things in the Geekverse. Tabletop role-playing games being among them. Please come over here and join the Ravenkeep Discord server. But there's also a section on the Ravenkeep Discord server about better living, which includes a section on answering the call to adventure in the morning and also productivity. So we can hold ourselves accountable in the Discord server on the productivity channel, and also share our successes and maintain motivation. So if you need a way to help be more productive, you can join the community for that reason as well. And you can join us in what we are doing right now by trying to figure out how we want to spend the rest of our day. I need to, Neuromancer says, I need to plan my procrastination for the rest of the day. Don't do that. Don't do that. Let's use the index card productivity method if you are new here, and then we will take a look at it, and let's try to make the rest of our day exactly what we want it to be. All right, so let's go to it.
Well, I manage my department, and I've been doing that for several years now.
Your department's just you, right?
Yes, Jim, but I am not easy to manage.
If you would like to join in on being more productive with me and everyone else here on the stream, but are in need of a system to help you out, here's an easy system that you can adopt and that I recommend. Grab a sheet of paper. I find that an index card folded in half is the perfect size for this. But if you don't have an index card, no problem. Any scratch piece of paper will work just fine. Just grab it and a pen or pencil. Think for a moment and come up with the 3 things that if you were to accomplish them today, you would know and feel that it was a great day. I bet you can take a breath right now and think for just a moment, and you will know what those 3 things are. We're going to call these 3 items our big rocks. Our objective is to move these big rocks during the day. Now, don't make the rocks too big, because then you can't move them. Rocks that are too big to move in about a third of a day, we call those huge rocks. Moving the huge rocks is our major multi-day goals in life. But in order to move them, we have to break up the huge rocks into big rocks that we can actually pick up and move around. But we don't want these rocks to be too small, because although small rocks are easy to move, we don't feel sufficient accomplishment when we move them. Moving the big rocks makes us feel accomplished because they advance us toward our objectives in significant ways. You decide what size tasks are small, big, and huge rocks for you. If you get all 3 of these tasks done, then go ahead and add a 4th or a 5th big rock. But don't do that unless you've finished your big 3. You want to look at your list at the end of the day and feel success and accomplishment. You can use your phone for this if you want to, but I think a sheet of paper is better because then you don't have to pick up your phone to check your list of big rocks and potentially get sucked into all the distraction on your phone. The phone will also let you put 20 or 30 things on the list, no problem. Half an index card will keep this tight and focused. I know there are dozens of things on my to-do list on my computer, and that's too much. This method allows me to extract what I really need to do during the day and focus on that. If you're already using a productivity method that you like, no problem, use that. Do what works for you. Now let's write down our big rocks and try to get them done between now and the wind down live stream in the evening. That's where we check in, see how we did, celebrate success, and see how we can improve tomorrow. If you need encouragement during the day, look to the Ravenkeep Discord server. It's a great and constructive community. Let's take over the Geekverse. All right, so are you inspired? I was sitting here trying to figure out what, how I need to block my time for the rest of the day in order to make sure that I'm accomplishing what I'm trying to accomplish here with what's going on. See, this procrastination, Bear says, is my sin. It brings me endless sorrows. I really should stop doing it. I guess I'll stop tomorrow. I know, but stop now. Stop now. Let's join us with this. Factotum says, I'm destined for blood work and a shot for medical stuff, then a busy day, but we'll try to come back for the horror. Yeah, come back and enjoy some horror. All right. Fun listen. Enjoy the day. Right. Okay, so let's see here. So I'm sitting here going, you got to look at how much time you've got left. You've got to look at how much time is actually left here in the day. And, if you've got something to do, you have got to have time in order to do it. So I'm sitting here looking at my day here. So I'm saying that I did heed the call to adventure, even though it was not 4:45 this morning, but I adjusted because I was up late last night. So sometimes you roll with the punches. We've got to be MBR, which is work on our big rocks. So YouTube right here, I know that I'm going to be spending at least, see, I've spent an hour and 15 minutes on YouTube right here. I have got the YouTube tonight. I have got to clean the house, including especially going and doing some laundry here. But dinner is the big thing that's going on here, so I'm blocking out time for that. That's going to take, the dinner is actually early. It's 4:15. We're meeting to eat at 4:15. So that's going to take about 2 hours. Then I've got to drive 40 minutes. So 2 hours, I mean, that's basically 3.5 hours that I'm going to have to allocate time to doing this dinner, but it's an important dinner. And then I will come back. We'll go for an hour. Brianna is actually having one of her scripts read tonight. She's been working on scripts. I've been working on movie scripts. So after the discussion tonight, she is going to a place that's a community kind of organization kind of thing where they read each other's scripts and provide commentary. And so she's got an hour, and then after that, she's got to go. So my time on YouTube is here. How much more time do I have beyond that, though? Before 3:15, this is close to 11 o'clock. I've only got 4 hours to allocate, and I just allocated 1 hour to cleaning, so 3 hours. So I've only got 2.5 hours. See, I've only got 2.5 hours to allocate. I've got another short. I almost got my system done. I've been publishing shorts for our different fantasy worlds, and on the Black Cipher is one of them. So I've been experimenting with our YouTube channel, the Black Cipher. If you, let me put a link to that. If you haven't seen there, but you like psychological horror, you like paranormal kind of horror things, I started experimenting with producing some shorts. I've got another one coming out today. Here is the Black Cipher YouTube channel. And I've got to get that procedure down so that way people can enjoy what I can get out the kinds of things that I'm creating in some type of way. And I think that needs to be shorts. I want to be able to do longer form things too, but I want to start with trying to create fantasy shorts. So I'm starting with the Black Cipher. So if you have not seen the Black Cipher and you like kinds of paranormal horror kinds of things, it's about aliens and sci-fi kind of horror. So you may want to check out the Black Cipher YouTube channel. There'll be a short that comes out at noon, but I need to work on that some more because I need to know if I've got my procedure down for editing and creating those shorts. Because, see, here's the thing. You don't need... you can do a whole lot if you just need 1 or 2 or 3 of them, right? But as soon as you're like, hey, I need 4,000 shorts or 2,000 shorts, then you've got to systematize the production of them. So I've been trying to systematize the production. So I'm going to spend 2 hours on that. And then I'm just going to have to see. I see core creative time because I was up late. I didn't get to core creative time today, which is when I typically do the script writing. I want to maintain my diet because I am trying to get to 170 pounds. I want to do that by not drinking alcohol. I don't want to drink alcohol until I get to 170 pounds. And I want to make sure I also hit my watch rings. Oh, so actually that is daily active recreation. I'm going to need to be able to go outside. So that's basically how much time is left in the day. So plan your time, plan your big rocks. Don't procrastinate. Get stuff done. Get things done, creative things done, or other kinds of, even if it's a non-creative thing, but whatever it is you're trying to get done, get those things down and then have a better day. And we can hold ourselves accountable on the Ravenkeep Discord server. Let's see. Interesting method. We'll try it out. Yeah. See, my problem though at the moment is that I ended up with all these cards and I wasn't able to actually clear a bunch of my big rocks. That's why I'm trying to be much more scheduled with my time in order to get these things out of here. I got to update the morning messages as well. The morning messages have got to get updated for this month, and it just hasn't gotten done. There's so much to do. George says, plan more maps, tie them together, put them into Foundry VTT, practice more with Foundry, upload some maps to Patreon, go shopping, watch a hockey game this evening. Should be a good day. Sounds like a good day. Tomocrat says this was a good I'm so sorry to hear this, Tomocrat. This was a great distraction for me. My uncle just passed away and I'm on autopilot right now. I am so sorry to hear that, Tomocrat. Yeah, people tell me about how great Foundry is, and I've looked into it briefly, but I've got to look at it more. All right, George says, have a great day, y'all. Yes, everybody have a great day. Go be productive. Go get work done. Don't procrastinate. Get work done. I will see everybody tonight at 7:30 for our discussion with Brianna. Everybody loves Brianna. So Brianna will be here. We'll be discussing fantasy. So see everybody tonight at 7:30 p.m. Central Time. Until then, hey,